First things first, we are gonna make a coffee walking around my home. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're gonna be making a decaf. Don't you worry. Someone found out she could walk around with her microphone like this, and now she's a menace. Whatever portal you got here from, you've stumbled upon my bookshelf tour. I promise this is a bookshelf tour. We're gonna do the see-through glass one. Milk. Oh, it's overflowing. Oh no. Oh, panic. Oh, panic at the disco. That was kind of close. We got it. Congratulations, you've made it to Emma's bookshelf side quest. I hope you have your own hot drink and your own cuddly cat or something, because today I'm going to be taking you through my bookshelves. I am going to be taking you through how I've organized them. I'm very excited to show you all of my little trinkets on my shelves, and mostly I'm just extremely honestly grateful to be filming this video because I have been waiting to film this video for a long time. I haven't had bookshelves in my life for a while, like I guess proper ones. I can't do quotation marks right now because I recently moved and I finally had the space, availability, and all of that stuff too. You might be asking, Emma, where did you store your books before? In a heap. I will link anything that I mentioned below because I've gotten a lot of questions about where I found these bookshelves. They're in the description box. Okay, let's go. You can see end to end of my shelves right now, and then this randomly, oh, it kind of looks like my little top hat. This is the overview of my shelves. They take up pretty much one full wall of my living room, and then at the minute I just have half of them covered with twinkle lights because I ran out. You may have questions, and these are the answers. Inevitably, when I do bookshelf tours, and I've been doing them for a little while now, this is maybe like my 4th or 5th different bookshelf tour because I arrange them and move around quite a bit, but inevitably I always get questions about why do you own so many books? I wouldn't call myself a collector of books necessarily, although I do own not quite 700 volumes of, I guess, kind of all varieties, but I have always loved literature. I have always loved reading. I've always had books around me. Some of these books I've had since I was 10. I have been, you know, reading and having books and adding them to my shelves for at least a decade, over a decade. My collection started out purely, like, not purely, probably 90% thrifted, and I still love thrifting for books. Thrifting for books is such one of the great joys of life, honestly. I'm very fortunate that I get to work sometimes with publishers or different bookish companies who also gift me novels. I always get a lot of questions, so just wanted to get that out of the way. I would love for my shelves to have a big ladder across it because, I mean, I can kind of reach, but not quite really, so I am gonna go grab my step ladder. Where is she? No one knows where she is. I'm in your brain. Someone take the mic away from me. I always like starting my bookshelf off with classics. I like classics being on the top shelf of them all. I don't know, I put them on a pedestal in my mind. It just feels right to me to have classics on the top shelf. This is where I say that my bookshelf starts. The very first row on my bookshelf is all Oxford World Classics. It is the Oxford World Classics and the Penguin Classics, so they make up the bulk, I guess, of my classics collection. I still can't decide which edition I love more, Oxford or Penguin. I don't know. I feel like I am always leaning towards the Oxfords. I don't know why. Oxford or Penguin? Which one? The first few classics collections are just arranged alphabetically. So the first book on my bookshelf up here on the left is the big old Bible. Authorized King James Version with the Apocrypha. Right next to that, I have the Quran. The first novel, though, on my shelves is Northanger Abbey and Other Works by Jane Austen, followed by Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. I just think they're so beautiful. I love the design. I always love the cover artwork that they choose. And the only thing with the Oxfords is that the pages are a little too soft and thin, is what I would say. And honestly, I have that complaint a little bit with the Penguins too. The pages are just a little bit too flimsy, especially when I want to write in the margins or underline a lot of stuff. I'm always a little scared that I'm gonna like rip the paper. I don't know. I just wish it was a little bit more formidable. There's a lot of just random picks, honestly, in my Oxford collection. We have Cicero's The Republic and the Laws. We have Descartes' A Discourse on the Method. And then we get into my big spined Dickens collection here. I have 5 Dickens in the Oxford World Classics. Favorite of these 5 for me is Dombey and Son. I really, really like Dombey and Son, and I honestly could not stomach my way through Martin Chuzzlewit. We have Euripides, Huysmans, we have a couple Hardy, Hume, James, Lewis, and we have The Rise of Rome. Books 1 to 5 by Livy. Used to do this thing where I would pick a favorite book per shelf to give you a recommendation and to kind of showcase my taste a little bit more rather than just throwing every single book I own at you. So we're going to try to do that. What is my favorite book on this shelf? You have to remember, I obviously haven't read every single book that I've owned. That's never really my goal. I like having a library full of options and full of unread tales. I mean, The Monk is pretty good. I don't know, probably Dombey and Son. It's probably got to be Dombey and Son. The way that I've arranged my books goes across. I didn't really want to go down. I kind of thought about doing that, but I do like just kind of going left to right all the way across. This is where my Oxford World Classic collection ends. It starts with 6 Tragedies by Seneca. We have The Beefy and the Beautiful, War and Peace by Tolstoy, which is one of my most annotated books probably ever, or tabbed books as well. And then we have some more Tolstoy. We have a couple Tolstoys in here. Not a big fan of Resurrection, but that's okay. My most recently read book on this shelf is The Lady's Paradise by Zola, which is a book that I've become kind of a little bit obsessed with. And then here I have 3 of the older Oxford World Classics with Persuasion, which is my latest Austen that I've read. Again, not a favorite. We have The Flowers of Evil and the major works of Lord Byron, which is another big one. So right in the middle is kind of nice because this is where the shelf splits into my Penguin Classic collection. Again, with this one, I have some really, really, really random picks. We have The Lay of Mary of France. We have 3 restoration comedies. And next to that, we have Callocane by Karen Boya, which is a big contender right now, fighting its way up my TBR. We have Lord Jim. We have David Copperfield. This copy of David Copperfield got shredded to bits. Oh boy. I read that last year. We have The Idiot. And then what else is on here? What would I tell you is my favorite book on here? Probably out of here that I've read, it's probably got to be The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I'm a big sucker for The Haunting of Hill House. Here's the last of my penguins. So all the way on top, I actually have 2 tiny penguin. What are these actually called? Penguin Pocket Library or something like that. We have Matilda by Mary Shelley, which I hadn't even heard of until a couple of years ago. First one up though of the regular sized penguins, we have The Phantom of the Opera, which is one of my favorite books of all time. Like, I am obsessed with that book. You guys don't know, you guys probably know if you've been here for a little bit, but I am like obsessed. I love it. I love that book so much. We have stuff like The Symposium. What else do we have on here? You can kind of just see what we got going on. The biggest one on the shelf is The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser. Then right at the end, I have a couple. For example, Beowulf is an older Penguin edition, but then I just threw like 3 Wordsworth editions back there. Wordsworth editions have like the softest pages known to humankind. Like, the first one I have here is Emma by Jane Austen. This book is I would use this as a pillow. So soft. It's so incredibly soft, and they smell so good, and they're such a beautiful, they get such a beautiful shade of yellowing. They don't make them like they used to. Like, this is So gorgeous. So these ones you can't really see very well, but those are the not hated, just disappointed. I'm just disappointed in the Arcturus editions. I used to go feral for the like 3 for $10 sale on classics that they would have in chapters when I was a teenager, and I've long regretted that because the Arcturus editions are just so not it. Right on top we have the woman in white, and that's the thing too, when you don't like the editions, like I'm so discouraged from reading any of these. Thankfully I've read most of this little pile, but the woman in white I haven't read. My favorite one from this little stack is probably there's some great ones in here, man. I guess I'm gonna have to say The Picture of Dorian Gray. Frankenstein's a very strong contender. We Have Always Lived in the Castle is a very strong contender. But yeah, so the thing with these ones is that I like their like kind of creative approach to their cover designs, although it borders a little bit on corporate art style, but not really. But it's kind of getting there, if you know what I mean. But I really like the spines, and I really like the way they're all super different. I love their different color palettes. It's just that like inside, everything about it is off. The paper, the smell, the font. On this shelf, the next one going across, I have my Penguin modern classics, and then I've honestly thrown in a few in there that are just literally the same shade of mint because yep. So the first one on this shelf is A Small Town in Germany by Jean le Carré. I have not read this as of yet, but I have read Once There Was a War by John Steinbeck, which is right next to it. So some favorites on the shelf include Wide Sargasso Sea. Actually, okay, I don't know what it is, but every Penguin modern classic that I've read like just hits. It just hits different. It's always a 4-star usually, and a lot of the time it's a 5-star. It's like a new favorite. I don't know what. Maybe modern classics. I think modern classics are where I like to live. They're where I like to be, and I have found a bajillion favorite like new books from this section of my bookshelf. This is always where I go when I'm looking for a 5-star prediction. Things like Things Fall Apart, 5 stars. Things like Good Morning Midnight, so good. Things like Season of Migration to the North. Season of Migration to the North. Favorite book on this shelf. It's just so good. The Ice Palace by Tarea Vesos, so good. And then in the middle, the shelf splits into my Penguin Modern English Library editions. I think that's what they're called. These ones are gorgeous. This is really a collection that I like. I think they're beautiful. Yeah, they're just fun to hold. They're very floppy. They're very bendable. Someone is really going to take this audio out of context, but I just really like what they've done with this one. So those are all there. And then at the end, I have a couple of the Penguin, are they called Bright Ideas or Big Ideas? They're like little collections of big ideas. Finally, on this shelf, this is where my like sorting by edition ends, because I have 3 of the Barnes and Noble classics. These are all thrifted or gifted to me because we do not have Barnes and Noble here. I've never set foot in a Barnes and Noble. I just get to hear my fellow American booktubers talking about the mythos of Barnes and Noble, the magical land of Barnes and Noble. Who is Barnes and who is Noble? I have 3 of their editions. I don't like them. Okay, don't like them. I feel like they're a little bit akin to the Arcturus editions from Chapters, which is like our Barnes and Noble, but yeah. And then finally on the end of the shelf we have Dante's Inferno, which is where actually my classics just start getting sorted into the alphabet. They just fall into the letter of last name. So of course we have Dante. One of the questions that I get asked most often about my book collection is simply why? Why? Why do you own so many books? Why do you collect so many books? Why do you read so many books? There are literally a bajillion answers to that question, but one of the simplest answers is that I want to write. I simply want to write. That is one of the major end goals of doing both my degree, of reading so much, of having such a large library in my home. Reading is phenomenal practice for writing. Probably the best way to expose yourself to the world of the written word. However, writing is also good practice for writing. With Masterclass, learn from the best to become your best. Whether you guys are looking for inspiration, practical tips, or just trying to find your voice, Masterclass is the place to go. Amy Tan, who is a wonderful author, has a class on Masterclass on fiction, memory, and imagination. This one has given me so much positive motivation to write more, which is something I've been struggling with a little bit recently. She gives advice like keeping a writer's journal that isn't for anyone except for yourself. So this isn't a journal for drafting or to put research in, but it is a place to be brutally honest with yourself and capture those raw thoughts and feelings that can be translated later on into fiction. A membership with Masterclass offers access to thousands of insightful lessons from the world's best. From art to gaming, cooking to ballet. I screamed when I saw Misty Copeland on Masterclass. They have something for everyone. The writing catalog has a stellar lineup of teachers, including authors like Amy Tan, Margaret Atwood, and N.K. Jemisin, who cover topics like world building, how to seek publication, and how to create compelling characters. I am currently in a pretty busy period of my life, and classes like Atwood's, which are delivered in 10-minute chunks, make learning more about the craft easy and convenient. You can listen to episodes on your way to work, at the gym, and learn new skills on the go. Masterclass plans start at $10 a month, billed annually, and you guys can get 15% off with the link in my description box, or you can scan the QR code here. If you guys are looking for inspiration and learning new skills from the best, then Masterclass is for you. And again, thank you to them so much for sponsoring this bookshelf tour. Favorite from this shelf is probably, it's a good shelf. It's probably the Brothers Karamazov. That book is something else. That book takes a long time to get through, but it's really worth it. I would really like to read most from here, probably Heart of a Dog. Finally, we've come to the last shelf on this side, which is right here. All classics. The classics take up quite a big bulk of my bookshelf. The first one on here is Middlemarch by George Eliot. I read it. I didn't like fall head over heels for it, but probably in another 20 years, I'll give it another go. This shelf has quite a big Gibran section. I have read and adored The Broken Wings and The Prophet, and I was very kindly gifted a bunch of his works, like his quotes, his poetry, different notes and stuff like that. So that's what that little collection is. I also have stuff like a few Hemingway on here. I've read both The Sun Also Rises and A Farewell to Arms. A Farewell to Arms. Favorite book, I have a couple Kawabata to close the shelf off. I loved Snow Country, and so I'm very eager to get to the Master of Go. And yeah, favorite book on this shelf is probably Turn of the Screw. I think it's probably The Turn of the Screw by Henry James is my favorite book from here. Yeah, highly recommend that one. First thing, like a little trinket on here is this jellyfish. I really like jellyfish. This one is handmade from a craft shop that I visited in Nova Scotia. I actually got a couple of these. The thing is with my trinkets, and the thing is with this bookshelf as well, I have two cats. Their names are Kelsifer and Grendel. They are the dream, my life's dream come true, but Kelsifer actually loves climbing on my bookshelf because they can get on them and they can get from shelf to shelf because it goes all the way through. They love playing with all my trinkets, and we've lost a lot of lives so far, so I try to keep them a little bit out of reach. But yeah, that is the first little jellyfish guy on my shelf. I really love him. Promise we're almost out of classic land. I promise. The first book on this shelf is Kafka's Metamorphosis, which for some reason I have not read yet. Super high on my TBR for next year. I don't think I'm going to get to it before the year's out, but we have a couple more editions of Phantom of the Opera here. This one is very near and dear to my heart. This is one of my most original copies. As you can see, went a little crazy in there. I just want to read this again and again and again. I used to have a huge, if you remember, a huge Phantom of the Opera collection. You may be wondering, where did all those editions go? Because so many lovely people sent me editions in their language. They sent me different copies of it. I still have them all. They're just in storage for right now because were full up, but I did leave out a couple of my favorites, including my original, including the DP edition, whatever that may be. And then I have this really gorgeous Gaston Leroux bedside companion. Right kind of in the middle, we get the Shakespeare collection. So these are almost all thrifted. I think my favorite editions are, okay, my favorite editions would honestly be the Folger's Library editions. They're pretty well known, and a lot of people use them, but my favorite ones would be like the standard size. I don't like the mass market Folgers. I don't like mass markets usually in general, and I wish they were all this size. If anyone knows how to get them all in this size, because I ordered Richard III and it just for some reason came in this size. Anyway, this is getting really specific, but I feel like my book people out there, you know what I'm saying, and editions are honestly quite important because they affect the way that you view the words on the page, among so many other things. So then I have a couple of the Modern Library Shakespeare. They're fine. Don't ever talk to me about this Pelican Shakespeare. Don't want to hear it. So gross. And then, yeah, the majority of the ones in this little stack are the Folgers. So, ooh, favorite Shakespeare here? Okay, it's obviously Hamlet. It's obviously Hamlet. I don't know why I thought I could possibly say anything else. Favorite on the shelf in general, if we exclude Phantom because he already got a shelf, is probably Paradise Lost by John Milton. I'm a simple gal. What I didn't like go from this shelf right down into this one here. I just decided to go across again. So these bookshelves are actually 2 units. So each unit comes with 3 sections and you just put them together. So this is one bookshelf. Cool. This one again, classics, but this is where my classic collection ends. So we have Prometheus Unbound as the first one on the shelf, followed by The Catcher in the Rye. I love The Catcher in the Rye so much. This is probably like my classic shelf because I'm not terribly excited about reading Tolstoy again anytime soon. I'm not terribly excited about Cannery Row by Steinbeck. I'm not terribly excited about Jacob's Room by Virginia Woolf. Like, someone needs to hype these books up for me because every time I go to select something, I never hit this shelf. Never hit this guy up. Again, in the middle, this whole section here is where my Rilke collection begins. This section is where I have my German editions, which have all been just so graciously gifted to me by subscribers. Thank you guys so much. It blows my mind that I've been sent these. These are like treasured possessions. So these here are all my German editions, and then here these are like commentary and compendiums on Rilke's work. So for example, we have one called Rilke on Love and Other Difficulties. So this, for example, is like a collection of his quotes and wisdom and poetry on these subject matters. Favorite book on this shelf is hands down, I want to say Prometheus Unbound. I really like that play. Finally, we have my little brown shelf. In the middle, we also have another one of my jellyfish. This one is pink. I just think they're so beautiful, and I love when I put them on the shelf and like the light behind them lights up their little tentacles or whatever, so it looks like they're like shining. Up here, we have a couple trinkets up here because Calcifer can't reach this shelf. So we have my skull with butterflies on it. I get questions a lot about where that's from. I found that at Shoppers Drug Mart. And then next to that, I have this little shell, again, hidden from Calcifer. I think this is also from Nova Scotia. And then the other thing that I don't want him to touch and I don't want him to knock down is this music box. That is Phantom of the Opera. It's a Phantom of the Opera music box. This whole shelf too. Thankfully I have a little bit of room here, but these are again all Rilke. So first one is You Must Change Your Life, the story of Rilke and Rodin, because if you're a fan of the sculptor Auguste Rodin, Rilke actually lived and worked with him in Paris, and he wrote a monograph, and he lists Rodin as a very big influence. Next, I have my very big kind of, I guess this is big to me because I don't really own multiple editions except for Rilke and except for the Phantom is kind of where I allow myself to do that, but I have a bunch of letters to a young poet. This was my introduction to the poet, and I just love it endlessly. My favorite book on the shelf, though, is The Dark Interval. No matter what you're doing, but especially if you are dealing with grief, and who isn't, you should read The Dark Interval. That's always my recommendation. Right here, again, this like whole thing is Rilke. I have a problem, but it's kind of a good problem to have. The first little one on here is Poems Tonight, which is really, really cute. And then this I've kind of sorted. This one I have sorted chronologically. So this is the only area of like my classic stuff that I've decided to sort chronologically, because I don't know, I just like looking at his development as a poet. So we start with his 2 Prague stories. And then we have like Stories to God. Favorite book on this shelf from Rilke is, I think it's his Book of Hours. I've always been enamored with the Book of Hours. That's probably my favorite. But yeah, I have multiple copies of New Poems or Neue Gedichte, and I am trying, okay, still working on the German. I have multiple copies of Sonnets to Orpheus, which is his last work, along with the Duino elegies. After this, the classics end, and I start to sort my books into like the genre, yes, but first I have this whole big pile of books that are just like adult fiction, literary fiction, things that I would potentially in however many years call modern classics, or just plain old classics. So that's kind of what's up. This right here starts with Murakami, a couple Murakami books, simply because this shelf in the middle here, once we get to it, this is all of my Murakami, and these don't fit, so they are just there. There I have the ship, oh no, that's not actually The Ship of Theseus. That book is just called A, and it's actually by J.J. Abrams. It's meant to look like disguise itself as a library book. We have How I Became a Nun, Leave the World Behind, we have Allende. It just continues along here. The first one on the shelf is 100 Million Years and a Day, which I really, really want to get to. That sounds like literally so up my alley. We have stuff like The Grand Budapest Hotel. This is just the screenplay, actually. Really, really like that. Grand Budapest is probably my favorite film, and I cannot wait to watch it again. It is Grand Budapest Hotel season for me. I always watch that film around the holidays. Then I have a couple of Yukito Ayatsuji's mysteries. He is a mystery author that I've actually like found out about this year, and I have a couple videos solely on both of these novels, trying to solve them with my brother. If you want to check those out, really fun. And I actually really like him as a writer, and I cannot wait to read more, like just for fun. You know what has just occurred to me? I think I'm gonna get Thai food for dinner. Yeah, a recommendation I don't get to talk about enough, but I feel like I always mention when I do my bookshelf tours, is Can You Hear the Nightbird Call? Really recommend that. Surprising that I haven't gotten to Tender is the Flesh yet, but I haven't. We have a couple Beckett's, and then what else is on here? We have a big collection of Borges. Favorite book on this shelf. This is a good shelf as well. Favorite book, oh, shit, is probably The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. Okay. Then we go over here. Oh, you're still standing there. What are you doing? This way. Come on. Come on. Then we are back on this side to the rest of my, like, I don't know, just random books that I just put together, guys. I don't know. It makes sense in my brain, which is all that matters. First book on here, The Motorcycle Diaries by Shea. Next up, we have Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, which I haven't read. This is a pretty big unread shelf, at least for the first half. Favorites on here include House of Leaves by Marcin Danielewski. I also really enjoyed, more than enjoyed, because this is like my favorite book of all time, 100 Years of Solitude. I would say that this is the best book on my shelves. Like, yeah. Out of all like 687 or whatever the exact number is, this is the best of them. This is the absolute best of them. This like changed my world kind of forever, and I'm a little bit upset that I read it at a comparatively young age in my life, because it has kind of disrupted every other story and every other novel for me, because it's actually just that good, in my opinion. I will never recover and no other author will either, okay? You've ruined reading. No, but seriously, it is really good. When someone asks you as a reader, what is your favorite book of all time? Or like, do you have a favorite book? The usual response is like, are you flippin' kidding me? Like, how could you ask me that question? I have so many. What is going on? Like, that's a dumb question to ask someone who reads, because we can't pick a favorite. For me, I have that down. I have that listed. Obviously, there are books on my shelf that I love so much that have also been life-changing, that are also incredible, but there is that one book that just sticks out like a sore thumb above the rest of them, like a mountain out of the ocean, and that is 100 Years of Solitude for me. So yeah, and I know a lot of you feel the same way. I have a couple editions, of The General and His Labyrinth, because I really love both of these. This cover was really cool to me. I really like this cover, so I had to get that one. And then his shorter works here, which, for example, Chronicle of a Death Foretold is pretty good as well, so I would recommend that. I'm just realizing that I think I forgot to show you this middle shelf. So I'm just gonna show you that now, but again, it's kind of more of the same. So first book on this one is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, which I haven't read, really want to. This was the first book for the World Tour Book Club. If you are new here, I host a book club on Fable, which is completely free to join, where we read together or try to fulfill the challenge of reading a book from every single country in the world. This is something, I don't know, I'm just very passionate about it, and was so happy that I got to start this book club this year with you guys. So far, we've read 11 books. Once a month, we pick something. Our first read was from Mexico with Like Water for Chocolate, and we are currently reading from Albania with The Palace of Dreams. So yeah, that one's just really special to me because that was our first World Tour book club pick. Next to that, I have a couple Elena Ferrante books. We have The Days of Abandonment, and then we have the second book in the Neapolitan novels. The first one is like in storage somewhere. I think it's at my parents' house, but so far I've only read the first one, which is My Brilliant Friend. Favorite book on this shelf, I think we might have hit it, is Grendel. It's Grendel by John Gardner. I love that book to bits and pieces. I love Grendel in Beowulf. I love Beowulf, and I absolutely loved what John Gardner did with the character of Grendel. I love how that name sounds. I love the character in general. My cat is named Grendel. Also very special to me. We have a couple of Ghosh's works. I actually got to read Gun Island last year for university. That was a really cool book. I would recommend probably everyone read that. Steppenwolf, I'm currently working my way through slowly because it's very depressing. A recent read for me from here was A Company of Swans, which was a really good time. Simply just a good time. And then I have my Kazuo Ishiguro collection. All of these. All of these. I don't know how I've wound up with so many, but I've only read these two. Never Let Me Go, which a lot of people obviously seem to really enjoy, was not a favorite of mine. I was pretty disappointed with this one, and my favorite one actually still remains When We Were Orphans, which is my favorite. Ishiguro one is my favorite so far. However, I would really like to get to either The Unconsoled or The Buried Giant. Other stuff on here includes cool things like A Living Soul. This one is from a Swedish author, and then we have right next to that a Finnish author with the summer book. Okay, this is another shelf, just jumping down a little bit, that I absolutely love. A lot of big names for me on this shelf. First up, we have Phantom by Susan Kay, which is a book that I read in elementary school. This is a retelling of The Phantom of the Opera. I was obsessed with this book, and I think I still am. I really like what she's done in here with the character of the Phantom, so that's a big favorite of mine. Next, we have Small Things Like These, which was a gift that I am waiting to read in the winter. We have Burial Rites by Hannah Kent, which is about the last woman who was executed in Iceland. I Have the Right to Destroy Myself by Young-ha Kim. Looks like a very, very intriguing book that I just want to read so bad, but I keep putting it off. Saint Entangle and The Notebook, The Proof, and The Third Lie are two books that I just, especially Saint Entangle, and these would both be really wonderful for my around the world kind of challenge thing. Next we have Build Your House Around My Body by Violet Coopersmith, which I did start listening to on audiobook, and then I was like, oh no, wait, I want to read this one myself, so I put that down. Beauty is a Wound, the one right next to it, is actually a pick as well for the World Tour Book Club this year. We read this for Indonesia. The thoughts of the book club, like as a whole, I think, were that we didn't really love it. I didn't really love it. If you have any other Indonesian lit recommendations, please pop them below. This is a book that you're probably going to see on my favorite books of the year of 2024 list. The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. This is a book that you might see me read this winter, Under the Glacier by Haldor Laxness. We have a tiny Clarice Lispector hiding in there. We have Palace Walk. This is another book that I'd like to get to this winter, Two Sherpas. So interesting. I love books about mountain climbing and snow and winter and mountains. Okay. Solar Bones, I got to read for university. Hurricane Season is a book that I am terrified of because of the way, not only because of the extreme violence, but it's just purely stream of consciousness, I think, is what I'm seeing here, and that scares me. Off to the side here, we have a little Frankenstein man. As a rule, I don't really like Funko Pops, but I will make an exception for him. Like, look how flippin' cute he is with his little Daisy. I just think he's so cute. He just looks so sweet. He looks like a sweetie pie. Nervous System, we have The Song of Achilles, which was like probably the biggest book at the time that I joined BookTube, so that's what that always reminds me of. This one I want to get to. I've been saying that since the pandemic. Right after that, we hit like the M's of the alphabetical world. So I have my Mishima collection, which is this big. We have Confessions of a Mask, which I haven't read. And again, weirdly, I have a lot of Mishima. I've only read The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. Wow, that was disturbing. That was violent. That made me feel sick to my tummy. That was great. Just to finish off the last two on here, we have a couple David Mitchell. David Mitchell is an author that I just really love. Ooh, favorite book on here. From what I remember, it's probably still Phantom by Susan Kay. Little middle shelf. What is back here? Oh my goodness, it's my snail. I had a little snail guy. Can you see him? Kelsper has thrown him on the ground, ripped his eyeballs off, and this is all that's left. But he was supposed to kind of sit like that. Right, I promised I would show the little Murakami shelf up here. So this is my Murakami collection. He's another big author for me. I have been trying to read him chronologically for the past like couple of years now. Yeah, I like to take big breaks in between my Murakami works. My most recent one that I finished was actually this big guy, which was 1Q84. Have the best time of my life with it, but I'm hoping that that will be the exception on my Murakami journey. My favorite book is Dance Dance Dance. Love that book. But coming down here, we hit the David Mitchell, starting with Utopia Avenue on the left side, and then we have favorites like Cloud Atlas. I think, is this my favorite book on this shelf? There's a lot of good picks on here, but my favorite book on the shelf is probably Cloud Atlas. Yeah, that is the Mitchell collection. We have historical, we have The Plant Hunter, stuff like Captain of the Sleepers. I got to read this one last year. Beloved by Toni Morrison is an absolute 5-star masterpiece. The Clockmaker's Daughter. Tram 83 was probably one of the most unique books that I've read this year. Then we have Lolita, we have How High We Go in the Dark, which seems like it talks about so many things that I'm interested in, so I'm going to try to remember to read this one next year. And the last book on here is Kintu by Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. This is the one that I'm hoping to read for Uganda. This shelf has the other little Funko Pop that I let live on my shelves, which is the Phantom of the Opera. He's cute. This one is also a fun shelf. I have a bookmark that I put back here that says Per San Marco, which I got in Venice at one of the coolest bookstores I've ever been in. It was, yeah, really, really cool. That's where that bookmark came from. And then here, the first book on the shelf is a collection of short stories called Thus Were Their Faces by Silvina Ocampo. I have a couple of Yoko Ogawa's work. Most recently, I read The Housekeeper and The Professor, also for the World Tour Book Club. Everyone seemed to really love that one. I have a couple Pamuk from Turkey. Snow was the first one that I read, and the other one I have on here is Istanbul, which I would like to read. That's more of like a personal collection and like kind of memoir style, I think. We have Dr. Zhivago. Titus Grown is, I've heard, an absolute gothic masterpiece that I would really like to get to. Same with the Book of Disquiet. And then we have my little Anne Rice shrine. I need some more vampire stuff. I feel like, here's the thing as well, I love trinkets so much. If you have a good place where you get your little cute trinkets from, or if you have like specific book related trinkets or trinkets that are made for bookshelves, please. Interview with a Vampire. Yeah, I'm becoming obsessed. I just finished the Vampire Lestat this month. Actually, I got, yeah, kind of ruined it. That's okay. To be loved is to be changed. Discomfort of Evening looks absolutely terrifying. We have Dark Academia, If We Were Villains. We have, again, favorite book on this shelf. Favorite book on this shelf is The Iliac Crest. It's weird, it's wild, and it's spooky. So then I have a couple more here from the same author, and the last one on the shelf is actually The Blue Moth Motel, which was written by a lovely lady who has subscribed to this channel. So really cool. I love it when you guys write books. Up here, the first one on this shelf, again, just continuing with all of these books, is Marina. We have this one, which is a big favorite. I haven't read My Dark Vanessa, but Frankenstein in Baghdad is this my favorite? If I had to pick the favorite for the shelf, what would it be? It would either be Frankenstein in Baghdad or, ooh, this is a hard shelf again. A lot of these I love. Probably Untold Night and Day. One of those two. Okay, moving along, I read my first Saramago last year. I would also recommend everyone read Minor Detail by Adania Shibli. Look at how gorgeous that cover is. It's so subtle. A couple more interesting picks. We have like The Blue Fox, which is a really cool fable kind of novel set in Iceland hotel world by Ali Smith. This has been bleached to smithereens. I found this one thrifted. We have a couple Kalman Stefansson. These are really beautiful. This is a trilogy. I need to get my hands on the third one now. Perfume. How have I not still read Perfume? I don't know. Latitudes of Longing I read last year. We have The Secret History, of course. We have a book that I know is going to haunt me, and that is Cain's Jawbone. I recently picked this up, and you guys have been asking for me to do a whole video on it. I'm so scared. I am so scared. And the last one on this shelf is A Gentleman in Moscow. And then my little trinket on this shelf is this little cat guy who just kind of sits there. Can you see him? I think he's so cute. He reminds me of Calcifer. So he just sits there when he's not getting thrown to the ground by the actual orange cat that lives here. I think we have finally made it out of the forest because this is where the last of like my random lit fic, adult fiction, whatever you want to call it, ends. It is now cozy hour, so we can continue the bookshelf tour. This is kind of like my plan to do it as the sun was going down, and it's all the way down. The first book on here is Paprika, which I haven't yet read. A recent read for me from the shelf was Sipsworth. This was so sweet. This was so incredibly sweet. This is a hard one, but my favorite book on the shelf is Icefields by Thomas Wharton, and this is one of my most favorite books of all time. A recent favorite that just got published this year for me is definitely The Ministry of Time by Colleen Bradley. So good. The last book here before I just start sorting by hardcover, because I really like the way that all my hardcovers look together, is How Do You Live by Genzaburo Yoshino. You might know this one because Miyazaki came out of retirement to direct the film, which is called The Boy and the Heron. That's what the film is based off of this book, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know why I still haven't read it, but yeah, that one's very high up on my TBR. I have stuff like A Little Life on this shelf, which I haven't read and which is incredibly intimidating to me. I have been asked a million times to do a vlog solely on Little Life. That is coming, but I just want to make sure I'm in like the right place to do that vlog, is kind of what everyone has been saying before I start reading the book. Other older favorites on here: Cassandra by Krista Wolf, Lighthouse Keeping and Sexing the Cherry by Jeanette Winterson. Those are my two Wintersons that I own. I would love to get some more. And I recently read Slaughterhouse-5 and had like a very interesting time with it. I read the whole thing in an airport lobby, which was just a really weird experience. Hardbacks start right here. So the first one I have is Beauty and the Beast and Other Classic Fairy Tales in this gorgeous I don't know if you can see this. Holy moly. This is really dark and spooky in this corner now. It's a little bit better. So the first book on here is Tomb Sweeping by Alexandra Chang. A lot of these are from Book of the Month. I have been working with Book of the Month for many years on my channel, and I love working with them. We have an Agatha Christie. This book that's turned out I have not yet read, but I would really like to. That's a collection of darker fairy tales. Favorite book on that shelf? Ooh, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I love Heather Fawcett so much. Yeah, and I cannot wait to read the second book in that one. We have a bunch of romance here. We have some fantasy romance. We have some contemporary romance. I have not liked anything that I read from Allie Hazelwood. I was like kind of getting along with the Love Hypothesis, and I was having a really good time in the beginning. One that I really wanted to get to this winter is The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson, because this is a retelling of The Nutcracker. It's a retelling of The Nutcracker, and Erica Johansson wrote one of my favorite fantasy series of all time, The Queen of the Tearling, so I am absolutely pumped for that one. I just love the way that they look together. I used to like obsessively arrange my books by different genres and categories, but now I just really like the way that this, like, listen. Ooh, that sounds so nice. Okay, first book on this shelf is God's Grave by Jay Kristoff. That's actually the second book in the Nevernight trilogy, is it right? Babel. I have something exciting to tell you about this book. I don't know if you can guess what it is soon, but something. We have A Song to Drown Rivers. I just want to take all of these out for you because they're so pretty. Look at how pretty. Hereafter is a nonfiction memoir that I really want to get to. This one is all about grief. We have One Lonely David Mitchell right here, which is The Bone Clocks. And then we have my what is this? The Northern Lights, or His Dark Materials trilogy. This whole thing I found in a book box, like all of these, in like pristine condition. They're the deluxe 10th anniversary editions from, who published this actually? Oh, Knopf. Yeah, I can't believe I found these. My most recent edition from Book of the Month is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Yeah, look at how beautiful that is. Carolyn, my best friend, has recently told me that this is Sally Rooney's best work. I couldn't judge that yet, but I am really looking forward to getting to that one. And then on top of Priory of the Orange Tree, I have this little fish doodad. I think he's really an eraser, but I actually bought this with Carolyn in Toronto at a little stationery shop, and funnily enough, the lovely woman who worked there she was like, oh my gosh, I watch your videos. So this just reminds me of a really like nice day. So I have both of Samantha Shannon's fantasy, like epic fantasy, The Priory, and then A Day of Fallen Night, which is, yeah, so beautiful. And again, book box, guys, book box. Book boxes of the world, or little free libraries. Holy, I've been treated so well. I don't know what I did to deserve it, but I love this cover. I'm like obsessed. Brand new, just waiting in a book box where you can just swap out one book for another. So that's a really great way to find treasures too. I have one more hardcover shelf down here. The first book on this shelf is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, which is actually on my November TBR, so really looking forward to finally reading this one. And then I have the second one right next to it. So then I have stuff like Aesthetica by Ali Rowbottom, which I really want to get to. Another book of the month, Phantasma, which has made its way into the Goodreads Choice Awards, or at least the opening round this year, which I can't believe is already upon us. And then these are the only, I think, special editions technically that I own. These are my Fortuna Sworn editions. I love Fortuna Sworn. If you've never heard of Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton, it is probably, it's my favorite fantasy romance series. And so when I saw that the Bookish Box selling special editions of the whole series, except for the last one, I'm not sure if that's coming out or not, I went and bought them because they're just stunning. And I just like look at the pages. Oh my goodness. And the dust jackets are reversible as well, so I just have them to the side that I want right now. So I have the 4 books in the series, but there's going to be 6 books in total. There's currently 5 books out. I love, this is like my comfort series, and I cannot wait to reread it. Because I have not even read Endless Terrors, which is the last one that is out right now. I think this is like, I don't know if it's underrated because I hope that it's getting a lot more popular, but this series just, I don't know, it means so much to me. And then this is the last one, Beautiful Nightmares, that I have in the special edition. So just look, there's a dragon. This fantasy romance series has probably everything, every supernatural creature at least that you could imagine in it. So yes, there is a dragon, but I shan't say any more. Except that I love Fortuna Sworn. I love it so much. And then that is kind of where my hardcovers stop. So right here we have romance. Like I started a little hesitant romance / fantasy romance section. So we have Half a Soul to start us off by Olivia Atwater. I read this, was it this year? Or was it last year? I think it must be this year. I'm like losing my mind. Really good. Loved it. So I picked up the second book in the world, which you can read them out of order. So they're like Regency fairy tales is what they're labeled as. This one is called 10,000 Stitches. And then this is another favorite fantasy romance, The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. Really, really like this one again. And then right here I have a couple Sarah J Maas. So you guys, when I do my vlogs of both young adult and so far it's just been young adult book series, the #1 request I get is to do a whole vlog series about ACOTAR. So I did go out and buy the first 2, oh no, that's the third one, right? I do have A Court of Mist and Fury, but it's somewhere else on the shelf. We'll have to find that. So I have read ACOTAR before, but I've only listened to the audiobook. I've never read it physically, and then I haven't made it all the way yet to A Court of Wings and Ruin. So I will see. I don't know when the heck I'm gonna get around to that because I don't have any plans to do it anytime soon, but it is in the back of my mind. Yeah, this is where I store all of my bookmarks. They're all in this little cat mug. And then this is where the romance section continues, plus some random stuff that I'll get into, I guess. But the first one on here is Guild by Raven Kennedy, which I still haven't read. Then we have the second book in the Magnolia Parks series. It's here for some reason, along with The Spell Shop. And then we have a little intermission in the romance section because this is just the way it kind of worked out. The winter section of my bookshelf starts because I am obsessed with winter and snow and glaciers and mountains in the cold. So this is where that starts. There's currently a book missing here at the minute because I'm currently reading it. It's by C.L. Wilson. Here it is. This is the one that's missing. I'm that much into it. But anything, guys, anything, I'm not exaggerating, anything to do with winter, I will read. I will love, I will enjoy. This one is gorgeous. This is The Quiet Music of Gently Falling Snow. This looks like, oh, this just looks beautiful. Haven't read it, but I have read stuff like Moominland Midwinter, hence why it's turned out. I love that little book so much. It's so sweet. We have The Wolf and the Whale, Wicked Deeds on a Winter's Night. That's the only reason I picked this up, because this looks so fun. Welcome to Wintertown. Can I get a spotlight? I am obsessed with this area of my bookshelf. I kind of regret doing or filming the bookshelf tour right now because I have so many plans to decorate this section so much more, because right now I just have this little like glacial water feature. I found this at Michael's in their like craft section, so he's just sitting there. I think he's really pretty, and I put a little polar bear with a scarf on him that I got at like through one of those gotcha gumball machine things. But yeah, this is the winter shelf. I am obsessed with this. Anything to do with ice, snow, or winter is here. Favorite book on this shelf, that is so hard, but it's the one that's staring you right in the face, and that is A Castle in the Clouds by Kirsten Gier. I love this book to death. This is also one of my favorite books of all time. Yeah, this book has become like a part of my soul, basically. But the very first book on the shelf is A Winter's Promise. Have not yet read, but there's other just beautiful copies on here. We have Frostheart, we have Green Glass House, I put Shiver on here by Maggie Stiefvater. This is my very battered copy from when I was a teenager, but this fits the bill so perfectly, and I actually reread this last year. And I still liked it. So this one's really interesting. I would like to pick this up soon. I read The Winter Duke last year. I didn't love this, but anything to do with winter, it just has such a soft spot in my heart. Ember and the Ice Dragons is another favorite on this shelf, again by Heather Fawcett. This is actually better than Emily Wilde in my opinion. And yeah, a lot of these are middle grade, which I just love because so much about winter just, I don't know, it just heals my inner child. The Enchanted Sonata is another favorite. And then these three actually are ones I'm really excited to get to and remain unread as of now. We have Tak to Me, which is a collection or an anthology of Arctic horror stories. Looks so cool. I found both of these last ones on here thrifted. And then this one is called Those Who Run in the Sky. So I love this shelf so much. I think it just makes me heart happy. Then though, we get back to our regularly scheduled programming of romance. So this is the last of my romance. The first one on here is Scarred by Emily McIntyre, which I have read. What else on here? I'm really interested to read A Single Thread of Moonlight. This is looking a little bit wintry-ish for sure. From Lukoff with Love. I didn't love it, but I saved it again purely because it's featuring ice and figure skating. So if you have any other figure skating romance recs, or just in general, please tell me. We have definitely a few dark romance picks here. Cinder Nanny, again. Yeah, I bought it because look what they're doing, guys. They're flipping skiing. It was a retelling of Cinderella, but set on like a ski resort. Yeah. And then these are my regular editions of Fortuna Sworn. So this is what the traditionally published, or these are self-published, I believe, look like. I still think they're gorgeous, but yeah, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. So the last one is Endless Terrors. Dowry of Blood. Love this book to pieces. We have Magnolia Parks, which I actually really enjoyed. Favorite on this shelf is definitely Fortuna Sworn, but my favorite one in the series so far is Beautiful Nightmares. It continues down here in this weird little shelf. We have a little mushroom crochet plush. I love that his eyes are like scrambled because he looks a little crazy. But he's this little mushroom with this cute ass hat on him. My brother's girlfriend made this for me, and I love it. I love him so much. And I love that he's like little blush. Oh, he's just so cute. So he sits there. And then the first book, yeah, okay, there's Akamath. So it's just here because I guess it looks, I mean, that looks great, that line. So here we have, I really want to read The Lies of Loch Lamora after someone told me that it's like kind of, is it set in Venice or it's set in like a canal city? Here we have The Hobbit and my Lord of the Rings books, which I read them this year. I finally got through all 3 sections of the Lord of the Rings this year, and it like breaks my heart that it's over. This is definitely my favorite book on the shelf, is The Fellowship of the Ring. There's The Queen of the Tearling that I was talking about. Love that. For the Wolf is another pretty wintry book, but I kind of had to pick and choose which books really exemplified winter a ton. This one also has a soft spot in my heart because it starts with a Rilke quote. even though the novel wasn't honestly that good. Legends and Lattes I still haven't read. If I haven't mentioned, we're in my fantasy section now. I don't think I said that, but this is my fantasy section. And then over here, these are kind of just arranged according to size because I really like the way that this looks. So we have stuff out of order, like this is the second Tierling book, and then we have stuff like the Atlas 6, which I haven't read yet. Here I have this big stack of mass market paperbacks. On top I just have this weird like tree stump trinket. I would usually put something in there, but Kelsfer always steals it, and like he knows to look in it now, so I've stopped putting things in there. We have one random sci-fi hanging out on top, which is Pattern Recognition by William Gibson. I am such a William Gibson fan. But the first proper like fantasy book is definitely Dreamer's Pool by Juliette Marillier, which I haven't read. This is where I keep my Wheel of Time books and my Game of Thrones books. So I do have all the Game of Thrones books, except the last one. George, where is it? But they are in storage except for the first one and A Clash of Kings, because I recently started rereading them. Like, oh my god, has it been a year ago now? And I reread Game of Thrones and it was a great time, but I never continued on with my reread for some reason. I've read The Eye of the World. Wasn't like in a huge rush to get on with The Great Hunt, so it's just sitting there for who knows how long. We have The Night Circus, which I want to reread. We hit my tiny sci-fi collection, which I honestly wish was bigger because it's just here. It's off with one of the greatest things ever, and that is the Three Body Problem trilogy. I have only read the first one, the Three Body Problem, but I need to get to the rest of these. What the hell's wrong with me? I have Ball Lightning again. I have a little Yoda, little baby Yoda. Asimov's Nightfall, The Forever War by Joe, oh, c'est quoi ça? I have Aurora by Kim Stanley Robinson, which I feel like everyone should maybe read. Favorite book on this shelf? Probably Game of Thrones. On this shelf is the rest of my sci-fi. So these are like my favorite sci-fis, especially these two really do. Android's Dream of Electric Sheep and Solaris. Solaris. Oh my gosh, I think this is my favorite book on the shelf. I'm pretty sure. It's Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. Oh my goodness, so good, you guys. We have stuff like Binti by Nadia Okorafor. That was really good. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. My rippled copy of Dune, which I should probably get the second book now. And then my other mass market paperbacks. And then the book that's turned out, which is 1,000 Steps into Night by Tracy Chi, marks the beginning of my young adult section. This is one of my favorite young adult recent reads, A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. And when I say recent, I mean like in the last 4 years. Is one big young adult shelf. So the first one on here is Traitor to the Throne by Alwyn Hamilton. This is so old. Like when I joined BookTube, the series was really popular. I have the Shatter Me books. We have the Shatter Me books, which just, I have so many feelings when I look at these. It's so funny. I did a whole vlog on every single Shatter Me book. I actually unhauled some of them, so I only own these ones now, which are like the main books, and I got rid of, I think, almost all of the novellas. So, but if you guys saw the news, and some people did because they messaged me, she's coming out with another novella, I think. Oh my god, like years later or something. I recently did another vlog on the selection. As you can see, I unhauled everything except for the first book, and then something that I will literally probably never unhaul now, and that I just cannot wait to read. First of all, we have A Beautiful Singing Bowl. That was also a gift. That, my friends, is The Raven Boys, The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. I love this to bits and freaking pieces. Incredible. And I found all of these thrifted. This whole box. I found the box set thrifted. So, wow, I'm so happy that I have these. Like, these are just absolutely gorgeous. So gorgeous. Another favorite on here is Entwined by Heather Dixon. Probably a very strong contender for favorite book on this shelf, especially because this one has a winter garden in it. Also, look at, oh, so beautiful. It's either Entwined or The Raven Boys, which is my favorite book on the shelf. Really hard to pick. We have this random potion bottle. Don't know what I'm gonna do with this. And then we have this Dobby Christmas ornament. First book, oh, love this. Love to see it. The Blood Spell by CJ Redwine. I really, really like this book. Extremely cozy. We have my two Stephanie Garber books that I own. Favorite young adult series, the Illuminae Files. This is the second one, but I would honestly like to own them all. However, at the same time, I really think listening to them on audio is the way to go. I have The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein and 2 little Harry Potter books squeezed back into there. We have now officially hit middle grade, so this is the start of my middle grade shelf. I decided to put all of my Harry Potter books here. These are so old and like falling apart, but they're here. And then I decided to just put all of my hardback middle grades in this section. So again, we have another Heather Fawcett. This is probably like, look how beautiful that is. I really want to read this. And then all of these I've actually read. So The Dollmaker of Krakow, please read that book. Oh my goodness. A Wolf for a Spell was pretty decent. Snow and Rose was just very comforting, cozy, low stakes, kind of, I guess. It felt that way. And Anne of Green Gables is a masterpiece. This is the rest of my middle grade. So first up we have these little mushrooms. One of my favorite series, middle grade series, is The Land of Elion. I've never really known how to pronounce that, but it's The Dark Hills Divide. I found these in elementary school and I've been obsessed with them ever since. We have My Neighbor Totoro Turned Out, which is just gorgeous. We have The Wind in the Willows, Peter Pan, my Anne of Green Gables editions in vintage. The Halloween Tree is the most recent 5-star, and oh shoot, there's so many good books on the shelf. But is it actually my favorite on the shelf? I feel like it could be. Ringer by David Clement Davies. I first read this in the 7th grade. This is my like 7th grade copy, so she's pretty old. Matilda I first read in the 3rd grade. Coraline I actually only read for the first time 5 years ago. I have a cheeky Bionicles book, Tale of the Toa. We have some recent additions to my middle grade shelf that I just really enjoy and have enjoyed as an adult. Howl's Moving Castle, of course. The Girl Who Drank the Moon is impeccable. Aggie Morton, The Body Under the Piano, is impeccable. And then we have one more Moomin book, which is Moomin Papa at Sea, tucked into the corner. And then these 3 is where my like manga, manhwa, and light novel section of the bookshelf starts. So these are all light novels, I'm pretty sure. The first one is My Happy Marriage. This is like the bulk of my manga collection, just like a few series. We have more light novels in this section. Favorite on this shelf is Even If This Love Disappears Tonight. This one hurt so bad. Yeah, Sailor Moon holds a special place in my heart. Kitchen Princess holds a special place in my heart. Spy Family is a very recent series that I'm becoming a little bit into. I haven't continued on with it in a while, but I have read the first 4 so far. And Hunter x Hunter is a series that I really love too. Finally made it to the last row of my bookshelf, and this is where most of the trinkets are so that Kelsifer can't send them to their doom. I have another little glass mushroom, and then I have a little axolotl stuffy that I got in Nova Scotia, so he sits there. And then this is the rest of my manga, and then these are a bunch of manhwa. So yeah, these are all illustrated with color, which are really beautiful. And then this big book that you see turned out here with this little dragon who's opening the door. I would love to hang him, but I know that it would get smashed, so I just put him there because I think he looks kind of cute. But this is the Mask of Agamemnon, and that is a whole history book on the Mycenaeans. So really, you know, we love the duality of this little Ghibli lamp with no face. So we have the Odyssey, the Iliad. This is my Anne Carson collection, some of them. I love Anne Carson. She's a big favorite of mine. I have Grief Lessons, complete poems of Sappho here. This isn't hers, I don't think, but this one is, if not Winter, her Fragments of Sappho, along with her version of an Oresteia. Metamorphoses by Ovid, the Aeneid by Virgil, Works and Days, Aristophanes, Aeschylus, Plautus, Suetonius, Thucydides, Apollonius. We have one more like kind of textbooky book, and then one more Anne Carson facing out in the corner, which is Men in the Off Hours, and that's poetry. Because we have now hit the poetry section. This last little one down here, we have a candle, and then this all right here is poetry, this section before the turned out book. So this is my little section of poetry. I'm not like absolutely enamored by a lot of what I own in this section, but yeah, I mean, Autobiography of Red by Anne Carson is an instant favorite. I really loved Butterfly Valley by Christensen. In the Presence of Absence is one I'm dying to get to. Memorial by Alice Oswald was amazing. And then I just put Mary's Monster here by Lita Judge, but this is a book all about Mary Shelley, written in verse. It turned out is basically the split where just my random, I mean, it's not too random, but my nonfiction begins. So this is a book that I bought. Oh, sorry. You can see my Charles Dickens socks. Just like wiggling my feet over here. Mute icons and other dichotomies of the real in architecture. Flipping. Love this book. Like, I'm going to flip through it. You can see how cool this book is. This is, I guess, a coffee table book, but I would read this front to back. And also I don't have a coffee table. So we have philosophy, so that's what this whole section is, like philosophy and theory. With Kathy Carruth, we have like Foucault, Freud, yeah, just like, you know, random stuff. In this big one, this is more philosophy, textbooks from like the one philosophy course at university I took. We have Sartre's Big Being and Nothingness, and then here is my little architecture section, which I cannot wait to grow, and which, I mean, mute icons should really be in there. But yeah, if I have an obsession with snow and winter, I also have an obsession with hotels. I love hotels, and I just, yeah, any book on like architecture and just I'm there, you guys, I'm there. So this is another one I got recently. I haven't taken it out of the wrapping yet. It's called Spatial Infrastructure, Essays on Architectural Thinking as a Form of Knowledge. I have no one to talk about this with, but I'm so excited about it. I kind of just sorted this. Is this alphabetical? I don't think so. This is just random nonfiction. Anne Frank, we have Eating Animals, which I guess, I mean, that's a lot of philosophy as well, really. But more memoir-ish pieces. But then we also have stuff like the Phantom of the Opera emoji version. Yep. And this shelf carries on with nonfiction, but a bit more organized. We have some more Darwish here. And then this is like my science section, just literally these 3 books, one on mostly just about the brain and trauma and stuff like that. And then we have my travel nonfiction section. We have this book, which I actually bought in Venice in the Anthropocene. Really interesting. One's in the Antarctica and one is among the High Alps. Penguin Classics book by Henry Elliott, which basically just shows you all of their publications. But then we have stuff like Dragons, Myths, and Magic, which is what it sounds like. Again, another beautiful book. And then the last few in here are compendiums, fairy tales, and illustrated books, along with graphic novels. Persepolis, I have Junji Ito's Cat Diary, which is fantastic, and then I have a beloved copy of A Velveteen Rabbit. Here, there be dragons. So this is kind of this is actually the last shelf on my bookshelf with books on it. So I have both a little crochet dragon, cute as hell, and then another one of those little dragons looking out of his pedestal. This is like more coffee table books over here. I have a couple of the illustrated Harry Potter books, and then the very last section on my bookshelf is just my textbooks from university. Just some of them, just the ones that I wanted to bring with me. The rest are in storage. I just really wanted to have the theory and criticism, these 2, and then one of the most recent classes I took was Indigenous literature in English, so I have that, and then I have my 2 copies of the American literature anthology. Finally, down here, this is it. I wanted one shelf where I could put really big books that couldn't stand up. So first of all, I have a jar full of cat whiskers. I don't know, it's like my good luck jar. I love collecting their whiskers when I find them all around. It doesn't feel right to me throwing their whiskers in the garbage. So they're in there, and I'm keeping this because I've seen so many people, like sometimes when their pets pass or anything like that, they'll make jewelry out of the whiskers. There's so many Etsy shops and creators who make rings and necklaces with the whiskers, and they are just beautiful. So yeah. And then back there I just have a random little like air plant container. My speaker's here right now. This is a little thing of calcifer that my mom made. Yeah, my mom painted this to look like calcifer, but here it is. Here's the last little bit on my bookshelf. I just have a photo album, and then I have 3 gorgeous copies: Phantom of the Opera, Frankenstein, and Paradise Lost. Is it, guys. That is my bookshelf tour. I cannot speak anymore. My throat is dying. But I want to say thank you so much for watching this. If you're still here, you are an absolute trooper. I need a glass of water. Until the next video, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys very soon. Ciao.